Welcome back. We're doing Parshat Vayeshev in the Alshich Academy, and we're going to be learning the story of Yosef Atzadik's dreams, the strife between the brothers, and what exactly went on here. Because this is one of the most difficult to understand stories, where we finally have a beautiful family, the holy family of Yaakov. There's no Esavs, there's no Yishmael. It's beautiful 12 holy children. Kulam ahuvim, kulam berurim, they're all holy, mitzato shlema. But all we see is fighting, jealousy, hatred, and it seems very difficult to understand. And Rav Moshe is going to try and give us a little bit of perspective on how to view these stories and how to understand what went down and how it all unfolded. So B'ezrat Hashem, in the schut of the Holy Rav we will merit to learn the secrets of the Torah and connect to the stories of our forefathers in order to know how to live and how to learn Torah. So let's see. Ele toldot Yaakov Yosef. The pasuk says Yosef was 17, etc. He brought snitchings to his father. His father liked him more than the other brothers, and they hated him, and they had the dreams, etc., etc., etc. So Rav Moshe is going to first, as he does, professionally break down the psukim and observe the idiosyncrasies and the seemingly superfluous and psukim that need to be broken down and uncover the deeper secrets that are hiding behind these little points of contemplation. So the first question Rav Moshe asks is, Ele Toldot Yaakov, these are the children of Yaakov. What do you expect to hear right after that? Reuven, Shimon, Levi. But instead, Ele Toldot Yaakov, who are the children of Yaakov? Yosef. Right? Most glaring question in the world. Why didn't we mention all of the children? Number two, Lama Modieni Shaya bin 17 shana v'shaya ro'eh techav batzon. Why is it important to know that Yosef was 17? Why is his age important? We don't usually see the Torah mentioning people's ages. And also it says that he was a shepherd. How was that important to know in the context of the story of the brothers fighting and the dreams, etc.? Number three, Amra Batzon. It says, V'hu ro'eh et echav hatzon. The pasuk says that he would go with his brothers and he would shepherd the sheep with his brothers. But it doesn't say that. It says, et echav. He would shepherd his brothers, batzon, with the sheep. Right? So it seems like the shepherding is not on the sheep, it's on the brothers. So this is hinting to Yosef's relationship with his brothers while they were going out together to shepherd the sheep. Number four, lama yodi'enu shaya nar et b'nei Bilah. Why is it important to mention that he was friendly to the children of Bilah and Zilpah? V'chen amro ve'et b'nei Bilah Zilpah. It says et b'nei Bilah ve'et b'nei Zilpah. Another et. Shaya da yomar et b'nei Bilah ve'Zilpah. It seems to be separating Bilah and additionally Zilpah, like two separate statements. What does that mean? Number five, Amran l'shei aviv. It says they were the children of Bilah, the children of Zilpah, who were the wives of Yaakov. The wives, obviously we know they were the wives of his father. What's specifically mentioning by referring to them as the wives of his father? Number six, Echi kushar amro vayave Yosef el hakodem. The pasuk says that he used to shepherd his brothers. He would hang out with the sons of the maidservants. And the pasuk finishes off. What's the last thing in that list? He brought the tales of the bad things that his brothers did to his father. How is this like a complete scenario that comes one after the other? How do they connect, describing the scene at the time? Number seven, Amrav Yisrael have Lama Karo Yisrael. Until now, we said Vayeshev Yaakov, Ele Toldot Yaakov. Suddenly, when it mentions Yaakov loving Yosef, it says V'Yisrael have Yosef. Why are we suddenly jumping into Yisrael? And it's interesting because as we now go in from last week's parasha, when Yaakov was given the additional name Yisrael, we'll constantly see both names interchanging. And now we have Israel being used, in a seemingly random way, where we'll use the name Yaakov and then suddenly we're introducing Israel. Number 8. Number 8, please. Says the Rav Moshe, Amrov yiru echav ki ad im aviv ha'heval ma pesha Yosef al zeh shisnu oto. The pasuk says, when the brothers saw that his father loves him more than the other brothers, they hated him. And they couldn't get a straight word to him. So the question is, why would they hate him if his father loves him? What can he do? He has to make himself unlikable to his father? Well, his father happens to like him, so why? That's not really a fair reaction to the fact that his father likes him. So it says Rav Moshe as follows. Oh yo 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 yo, oh yo 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 yo. Achine lahasir to'em ilev. We have to, the psukim here have an agenda. The psukim are trying to help us gain perspective and be able to understand and relate to the story that just happened, that's going to unfold in front of us, of the brothers and Yaakov and Yosef and Yehuda and all of these Shvatim. Haro'eh maseh Shvatim shiftei ya. They see that anyone that pays attention listens to the story of the Shvatim, the story of Yaakov Avinu, Hakadosh, Avim, Ba'Elohim. How can anybody try and make sense of this? So the pasuk is trying to help us be able to see the story in a positive light and to understand and to really try and go into the events as they folded out, as they unfolded and as they happened and transpired, in order for us to be able to get a real understanding of the emotions and energies that went on between them. Anybody that sees this, how can he not be dumbfounded and just completely astounded how this can happen? How can a holy one like Joseph repeat Lashon Hara? How can he go and say Lashon Hara to his father? The question is equally on Yaakov for accepting the Lashon Hara. What about the Shvatim, the holiest of the holiest? They should hate their brother. They should be jealous of him. They should want to kill him. They really wanted to kill him. They threw him into a pit with snakes and scorpions. When they finally took him out, because they had a guilty conscience, they sold him off to some Arabs. Is this the acts of truthful people, of real upright human beings? It seems very strange. This would give room for a mistaken, simple fool to have negative thoughts on the offspring of Yaakov. Maybe they weren't such holy people. Maybe they had issues. They had some negative character traits. Maybe they'll say, okay, the apple doesn't fall from the tree. Yaakov was an exception, but they are more like Esav. They take after their uncle. Or or someone else we can compare them to. Maybe we'll compare them to Yishmael or to Terach. Meaning, if somebody reads the story here without the belief that the Shvatim were holy, we can come to a mistaken conclusion and say that these people were just thugs, merciless, petty kids that just fought over attention and stupid stuff. So it's very important, says Rav Moshe, to understand that the pasuk is trying to give us perspective and wisdom into the story that happened here. He's saying Lashon Hara, and they're being angry and jealous and hateful. So maybe they won't actually hold against Yaakov so much, because at the end of the day, Yaakov Avinu, even though he didn't want to receive the Lashon Hara, he didn't want to believe it, but Rabbi Moshe brings a midrash that says that there's a Brit Kruta. He says here in the bottom there isn't such a midrash really, but it seems to be based on a different Gemara or a midrash that says that this is a fact that Hashem made in the world. Lashon hara sheyikubal shemetz menhu, that even somebody who completely goes against the information he was told, and he's completely refusing to accept it as truth, some aspect of it is going to have to penetrate, and he'll have to be affected by the information that he was told. So we're saying that maybe Yaakov didn't fully accept. He obviously, denied it and said, no, I know them, they're holy, they don't do these negative things. But it's going to have some kind of subconscious effect on his view of them. And therefore, it makes sense that he loved Yosef more, because of the fact that the other ones he got the bad negative influence from Yosef about who they were. So therefore we can kind of excuse Yaakov. But halo gam leval yishar levav yechashvu shelo karaoi leish kamohu. So even though you can't really blame Yaakov all the way, but anybody that doesn't want to believe in the beauty and the holiness of Yaakov will still say. So because Yaakov isn't such a holy person, he's got these issues, he's affected by the Lashon Hara. So now what the Pasuk is going to do for us is to make sure we don't have these perspectives of the holy forefathers. So what we're going to say as follows: the Holy Torah, the complete Holy Torah is coming to tell us the following. You can't compare these holy children to bad thugs and Esav's family. Ki halo ele shehem Yosef v'chol echav ha'amorim b'pasuk. Ele toldot Yaakov. These are the children of Yaakov. V'lo bevav. It doesn't say ve'ele toldot yemer aleim. It doesn't say ve'ele. Ve'ele would mean that it's a continuation of Esav's family tree. L'hosif al shel Esav ha'amorim b'Parshat Kodem ki kulo zereh me'ed. That's why it doesn't say ve'ele. It says ele. This is the introduction telling me that it's a cutoff point. Until now we spoke about Esav, and that was the negative genes. But from here, Ele Toldot Yaakov, this is a whole different story. These people are Zera Emet, they're holy, they're pure, which is why we need to understand now, how can such holy, pure people act in such ways? V'shana Tomar, Halo Masem Bilti Tovim. If I judge them by their actions, I don't see them as such holy people, with so much tattletaling and gossip and hate and jealousy. Says Rav Moshe, Al tachbid ashmotan. Don't be so harsh on them. Ki hineni modiacha geder ashmat chol chelek mehem al rishon rishon. Rav Moshe says, I'm going to take you through all of the details here in the story, one by one, and we're going to see how the events aren't as bad as you think. Umatchil b'Yosef. And we're starting with Yosef. V'omer, and the pasuk says, Yosef ben Shvas Reishana. Yosef was 17 years of age. Ubo shnei gereshin. The ta'amim, the melody above on this letter, on this word, is Yosef has a shnei gereshin, which is the two. It's a high pitched tune. K'magbia kol v'omer Yosef. I don't remember the tune exactly, but it's a high pitched announcement of mentioning Yosef's name. And Rav Moshe is actually using the ta'amim. I've never seen this before, but he's using it in the context to describe. Don't you think that Yosef is the way you think of him? Because based on what you're seeing in the story. I'll tell you why. All he is 17 years of age. He's young. Nar varach, haya ro'eh, umanhik et echav, umadricham biyotam batzon mirov chochma v'kisharon asher bo. Right? So he says a very interesting thing. The Rashbam says, and this is the way the Ramosha goes here as well, is that Hayaro Techav Batzon means that Yosef was very talented, he was very patient, and he was dedicated to helping his brothers learn the trade of shepherding. It seems that he had more talent than them, and he would actually shepherd them in how to shepherd. So he would go out to the field and say, guys, let's do this today. So Reuven is going to have the sheep till 10 o'clock. He's going to take them down there. Shimon, you're going to come and take over and take them to the stream down there for during the afternoon shade. Yisachar and Zevulun are going to come. And then, so basically he was the captain of the ship when it came to shepherding. And that was a little bit of a potentially seemingly condescending thing, but Ramosh is going to explain to us that it wasn't out of ego or willing to control. He was actually being helpful and patient, trying to teach his brothers the skill that he had. When they were home, then Yaakov was leading the group. It was only out when they were out with the sheep, then Yosef led them. So if Yosef was such a helpful, kind, caring brother that took the time to help them, and he was just young as well, so you're not going to expect him to be such a person that would bring gossip to his father. So you can say, why are you interpreting his leadership out in the field to be an act of patience and kindness? Maybe maybe it was just an inflated sense of ego that made him feel like he's the one in charge and he knows best. It wasn't due to wisdom and talent. Says the pasuk, I'll convince you, I'll prove to you that really he was humble. And it was just out of kindness that he spent time teaching them how to shepherd. He was actually a servant of the children of Bilhah. He acted to them as if he was their butler, or they're at their service. Right? A nar, what's a nar? When you have like a child at call, just, kid, come bring me my thing, do my thing. So Yosef actually served his brothers, and not only just his brothers, even the downtrodden slave, the maidservant children. And the reason he did that was because he didn't disrespect them and degrade them as children of the servants. Rather, he saw their mothers as actual true wives of his father. And now Ramosh is adding another thing. That would be cool. That would be nice. If it was only his mother's servant, Bilhah, that would be one level of humility. But it wasn't just his mother's maid servant that he was respectful to. Also Lebnei Zilpah, which was completely not related to him at all. Not only when they were all four together, and he was respecting the children of Bilhah already, so he respected them as well. No, even if they were separately, if they weren't together at the time, he would still respect the children of Zilpah, even though there's no reason he should, if he feels himself, if he's actually full of his own ego. So this is proof that he was obviously humble and kind. And this is why it says in the pasuk, Et b'nei Bilhah et b'nei Zilpah. Right? One of the questions before was, why does it say et separately? To point out that even if it was just Zilpah, the children of Zilpah on their own, he would still respect them and serve them and give them equal status, if not more than the others. Shema Tomar, so now the question comes, if he's such a kind, patient, loving brother, now it's even more difficult to understand. Why did he bring the gossip to his father? If he cared about them, why would he not be scared of repeating Lashon Hara? You shouldn't find this that difficult. He only repeated the gossip, the slander to his father. Why? Because he felt his father should know this, and he should try and reprimand them. V'yadrichem leman yachapes b'drachem, that his father should now be warned and be aware of his children's behavior. V'yadrichem b'derech yishara ka'av labanim, and he should be able to guide them in the right, proper way, like a father guides his children. But Yosef was very careful not to spread any rumors or any truths about his brothers to anyone else. A normal slanderer, gossip spreader, is looking to damage a person's reputation. He's looking to defame a person. So if you want to do that, then you would do that, spread it out, go to bars, go to shuls and start speaking about the person. But he didn't do that. All he did was went to his father, who he felt has the responsibility and the ability to guide his brothers, and that shows that it was pure intent of Yosef's part to repeat what he saw. This is somewhat of a mitigation or an interpretation, a positive spin on Yosef's role in the whole story. So we're saying, like, obviously we understand that it's an interesting event, but we're giving it context. We're giving the context the fact that he was young, that he had talent, and he was patient enough and kind enough to teach that talent and be present, and he didn't just say, "Oh, I don't got any time for you guys. I'm good at this. You're not good at it. So figure it out." He was there. He was kind, but it wasn't out of ego, because whenever a different type of kindness was needed, i.e., respecting and serving his brothers who were children of maidservant, he did that as well. So he was always prepared to serve. He was there to protect and to serve, to be there for the brothers, and so much so he even wanted to be there for them spiritually. So he wanted to also bring their inadequacies to his father, so his father can guide them and help them mend their ways. So this is really the perspective of the Torah, giving us all of this information of what happened in the field with the sheep, what happened, how he respected his less fortunate brothers, in order to give context to the slander and gossip he brought to his father. And this is also why another of the questions we asked was, why does the Torah start Ela Toldot Yaakov Yosef? Why only talk about Yosef? Because we're starting off with the list of people that we need to mitigate their actions and explain them, and the first one on the list is Yosef. Now, next we're going to move on to Yaakov. And the question is, why did Yaakov accept the slander? We don't accept Lashon Hara from one unless there's two witnesses. If one person comes, it's considered Lashon Hara. There's the famous story of Zigud in the Gemara, where there's a story of Zigud that came to the Beit Din, and he said that Tuvia sinned, and he told them the sin that he did, and the Beit Din came and took out lashes and whooped Zigud, and he said, Tuvia chata v'Zigud mangid. If Tuvia sinned, why is Zigud getting the lashes? And they explained to him, because if you're a single witness coming to say, wait, ain't there something negative about someone else, that's not really witness here. It's because you can't use it. So it's Lashon Hara. So now the question comes into Yaakov. Okay, Yaakov ka'ashem shekibel adiba. Yaakov remains guilty in theory, the fact that he received the gossip. Shal ken, where do we see that he actually received the gossip, seemingly, is because why did he love Yosef more than the other brothers? Obviously because he accepted that his other brothers were questionable, were behaving in bad ways. Shal ken avo yoter kol banav. He respected Yosef's integrity more than the others. So it seems that Yaakov didn't just take what Yosef said with a pinch of salt and then do his own investigation or speak to the brothers. He actually seems to accept it without being skeptical. And he brings in the Gemara, says in Nida, that Lashon Hara, that you mustn't accept it, but you can be cautious about it. If somebody tells you to be careful of this person's got this problem that you need to be aware of with the money, whatever, you're not allowed to accept it as fact, but you have to be cautious about the fact that it may be true, and therefore be vigilant in dealing with that person. So Yaakov, it seems, didn't accept it as a cautious potential truth. He accepted it as fact, and which is why he didn't like the brothers as much as he liked Yosef. So how can Yaakov do such a thing? V'hu b'som lev, says Rav Moshe. Now let's go to the next pasuk. The next pasuk says, V'Yisrael. What about Yisrael? This also has a term of Revia on top of the pasuk, which is V'Yisrael. Why did he accept the slander? You want to blame him for it? Al taseken. You should know that this is not a simple person we're talking about here. We're not talking about Yaakov. We're talking about Yisrael. What does Yisrael mean? The word Yisrael can be broken down into Yasharel. The fact that he loved Yosef wasn't coming from a dark, twisted place. It was coming from a pure, straight-hearted place. It didn't come because he took the slander as fact. Rak al kiben zakunim hula. He was a child from his older years. But what does that mean? Ben zakunim doesn't say ben zaken. It says ben zakunim, which is plural. It has a double meaning. Echad kamashmal. He was born when he was older than the other brothers. And another meaning is shekana chokhmah. Zakunim is zekona chokhmah, as the Gemara says. In that zaken, really, spiritually or psychologically, when we talk about an elder, it doesn't mean in years, it means in wisdom. And yet Yosef was a very wise son, and as we saw in Rashi, everything Yaakov learnt in the yeshiva of Shem and Ever, he was taught to Yosef. And as the Ramban puts it, he taught Yosef all the secrets, all the sadot. And the Medrash brings that the Pasim was the secret of the 22 letters of the Torah, which are considered the garments of Hashem's wisdom in the world. So Yosef was actually a very wise Talmid Chacham. And that's why Yaakov loved him, because Yaakov saw him as a continuation of the wisdom of Avraham and the great secrets that the Avot were able to grasp and perceive in Hashem's ways. And Yosef was found to be one of capable of actually receiving the secrets and knowing how to internalize them and understand them, which is what made Yaakov love Yosef, but nothing to do with the slander. So here Moshe has an interesting explanation of why he gave him the Ketonet Pasim and why it wasn't such a big deal. Because he says the Ketonet Pasim, we imagine it is like some kind of beautiful robe that he wore on top. But Rav Moshe is saying actually a kutonet is usually an undergarment. As we know in the Kohen Gadol, he had a kutonet, on top of it he had a me'il, and on top of that was the ephod. So it seems to be like almost an undershirt, or at least a shirt that has on top of it, a jacket and then a coat. So it wasn't necessarily something that he was flaunting and just going around with this like fiery, cool jacket, like a heavy metal kind of situation. But it was just some kind of token of his love to him, of being his prime student, and he wasn't necessarily rubbing it in their faces. It's the most undergarment, the underest garment. It's hardly noticeable. As the pasuk said later on, it says they took the shirt later on when they sold him. It says which means it was on his flesh, because it was the lowest layer of garment that was on his body. He brings here from the Midrash that Yosef at the time was wearing 4 different garments. He was wearing a pinas, I'm not sure what that is, some kind of a coat. Kutonto is a chaluk, Ketonet hapasim is a pargod, asher alav zu famalnaya shalo. So it seems to be that he's saying that this was like the second garment. The pinas is the first, and then the kutanto is the second layer, and there was 2 more layers on top of it. So basically, what Rav Moshe is telling us is that Yaakov loved Yosef because of his wisdom, because of his Torah capabilities, and obviously we know Yaakov had some deep wisdom to share. While he was meditating as a shepherd for 20 years, I'm sure he received some great wisdom. And he was also sitting in the tents before that, in the tents of Shem Ve'ever, and then he was, for 14 years, he didn't leave the tent, didn't sleep. So Yaakov was saturated with the wisdom of the secrets of the Torah, because they didn't have Mishnah Berurah back then. They didn't have Rabbi Akiva Eiger. They were dealing with the secrets of life and contemplating the deepest realities of Hashem's revelations, and you got to find the right student for that. These types of Kabbalistic, it wasn't even Kabbalistic, it was just truth at the time, and not everybody's able to receive it. So Yaakov, when he found Yosef as a suitable candidate for this, he found extra love, favor in his eyes, and he gave him a shirt, an undergarment shirt, in order to express that. But it wasn't there to make the point. It wasn't as if he was saying, "Oh, I hate you guys. I'm going to love him so much and let him rub it in your face every time he walks past." Okay, so so now we've done. What have we done? We've managed to understand Yosef. We've managed to understand Yaakov. But what about the brothers? If Yosef is just a kind, loving brother, and Yaakov doesn't accept the slander that he tells, so why the brothers? So now we have to understand. Till now, we understood the brothers the best, because the father is being unfair by giving him extra attention and extra gifts and showing his favoritism. Yosef is taking gossip to his father. So we understood their anger. But now that we've mitigated and understood Yosef and Yaakov, now the question is on the brothers. So it says the pasuk, "Ata tichbad yoter hashmatam," says Rav Moshe. "V'ata amarta el toldet Yaakov." So you're telling me that these children are all holy, they're all children of Yaakov, and they're not continuation of the Esav story. So then why are they acting in such ways? Why are they so jealous? Why are they so hateful? Because a little bit of silk, because he got a bit of a silk shirt, that's what they're going to start killing and hating and fighting for. As the Rabbis say, right? The Rabbis say that a person should never make a difference, treat any of the children differently from other children, because for a small amount of wool or silk, whatever it was, is all of this mess happened because of a little bit of a tiny show of favoritism. So that's why now we're moving on to the third pasuk. Vayeru Echav. Now we're explaining the brothers. Now what's about the brothers? How do we explain the brothers' behavior? So now we're going to see the following. Just because they saw him with this special shirt, they should kill him like that. It wasn't the shirt that they got to them, that they were just jealous of the shirt. They should have been jealous. And at this stage in the Torah, it doesn't say jealousy. It says they hated him. It says Vayisneu oto. Now, hate is not the reaction we're expecting when somebody is jealous. So that's why we have to understand what's going on here. They saw that the father loves Yosef more than the rest. They started suspecting that all of this gossip that he's been mentioning to his father has been accepted as fact. And therefore they are all considered unrighteous in their father's eyes. Yosef is the only tzaddik. That's why they hated him, because they said suddenly, wow, our father, our great teacher and master and leader, is thinking negatively of us because he had to go and spread stuff about us. That's why they hated him, because they felt that was the reason for Yaakov's special love to him. So maybe the question would be, why don't they judge their father favorably, and understand that the reason he loved them was ki ben zakunimhu, they should have been able to understand that maybe the reason the father's loving him is because of his wisdom, because he's the most suitable student. You want to say that he's the youngest child? He's not the youngest child, because Binyamin is even younger. So why doesn't Yaakov give him this beautiful shirt? The fact that he can't understand it based on the fact that he was the youngest, because he wasn't the youngest, that's why they were convinced that the hate is coming, the extra love from the father is coming because of the slander and gossip. So let's continue the Heilige Alshich Kadosh. Od yitachen ki milamala hechel b'tnatzlut achav. We already began in the second pasuk. This is a different way of understanding the pasukim. That the mitigation and the understanding of the brothers begins already in pasuk bet. So how do we understand that? Ki amar re'una ki lo litnasei Yosef aleim snohu. We can realize that the brothers didn't hate him because they were jealous or didn't like his personality or felt that he was trying to be better than them. Because already in the beginning of the pasuk, when he was teaching them how to shepherd, we see already that they didn't hate him then, and even really after all the gossip, they still didn't hate him, right? If you read the pasuk, it says, as we learned, that means that he was teaching them how to shepherd, and it says, Yosef edibatam ra'el. They still didn't hate him then. It was only later when they saw that Yaakov loved him more than the rest, only then did they begin to hate him. So that shows that they weren't just affected emotionally and their ego was bruised from his behavior. They were tolerating him. They accepted him the way he's behaving, but only when it got out of hand could they not anymore continue ignoring it. And why didn't they hate him in the beginning when he told all the gossip? Because they just said, obviously our father's not believing him. Our father doesn't believe Lashon Hara Stam. But they only got angry at him when they realized the father's loving him more than the rest, which is when they realized that it might be that the father actually did accept the Lashon Hara. Ki alo ben 17 shana haya ro'eh et hachabatzon mitnaseh aleim ro'eh otam manigam. He was acting in a way of controlling leadership already in fields, in while he was shepherding them. And they didn't bother them. The fact that they saw that when it came to the maidservant's children, he acted nicely, so that they realized that he's not acting out of ego, he's acting out of humility. They weren't angry, they weren't jealous. And even after even after he gave over the gossip, they still weren't jealous. Only when he saw that he loved him more than the rest, then they said, oh, must be our father did accept his gossip. And then suddenly this was the straw already, the straw that broke the camel's back. And they couldn't, the main issue was that they couldn't bear the fact that their father, the Holy Tzaddik, will see them as sinners. And that was something they couldn't deal with. Even though they hated him, they didn't say anything bad. Rak al heder dabro Shalom. And this is actually an early stage of hate, when you don't feel the need to say anything, to do anything. It's just you can't have a straight word with this person. Like anything that this person's trying to say or do or whatever, you suddenly just always interpret it negatively. And if someone that you love, even if they do something not so nice, you'll interpret it as a slap on the back from a friend. But someone that you can't stand, even if they're saying something nice, you're like, where's this going? What do you want? Even if it's big smile, good morning, you're like, Okay. What? Right? So that's Shalom, that they just couldn't get any peaceful, nothing could pacify them. They couldn't have any normal conversation. But that still wasn't anything positively hatred. They just couldn't stand each other. But however, once the hatred found its place to begin to germinate, then suddenly it started becoming more and more. It became more and more and became multiplied and started becoming a serious hate. And then that happened specifically through the first dream, when he started insinuating that he wants to rule over them. And eventually this led to also actually trying to kill him, which was also what they believed was the right thing to do, as we're going to see later on, said Rav Moshe. But that is the process of how this all played out, that it was a gradual process, and it didn't come from just a natural hate without any reasoning. The main point that we're trying to say, says Rav Moshe, is they're all holy, they're all complete, they're all special people. They weren't just any simple, sinful people. And why did Hashem actually feel that it was some kind of sin? It's only because Hashem is very stringent with His holy tzaddikim. וכן נחשוב כיוונו רבותינו לצאת התנדלות בעד השבטים במאמרם במדרש. And now Rav Moshe is going to introduce an interesting midrash that says that the ketonet pasim, you can be read pas yam. Al tikre pasim ela pas yam. This is the wording of the midrash. Look at the wonders of Hashem. Lama vayisnu oto. Why did the brothers hate him? In order that Kriyat Yamsuf should happen, the sea should be split. That's the midrash. So this seems a very strange midrash. What does anything have to do with the other? Three questions. First of all, the midrash is asking, like, as if you don't know why they hated. We know why they hated them, because the brothers, they hated them. The slander, and the father loved them more. So the passage is quite clear why he hated them. Number two is you have to understand this midrash. It says milat pasim. Lama asalok tolet pasim, kidei sheyikra levanav et hayam. So the question is, if the way we're understanding the word pasim is what the midrash is saying here, that pasim means pas yam, he split the sea. So the question should be, why did Yaakov give him a ketonet pasim in order to get to the split of the sea, which is pas yam? Why are we going to talk about the brothers, which is already the result of him having the shirt? He didn't make the shirt. And another question, so Moshe, obvious question was like, do you really want to tell me that when they were hating Yosef, they said, "Oh, I'm hating him because that's going to split the sea one day"? Like, what? How's that make any sense? He's asking the following: why does the midrash feel the need to reinterpret the word pasim? It says because what is pasim? What does it even mean? It's not like the name of some kind of silk. It's not a type of material made out of a certain fine material. You say ketonet pasim, he made a silk shirt. No. So what is pasim? What does pasim even mean? It's not clear actually in the Mefarshim whether it means it had lines or some kind of hem, or it had some kind of it was made out of wool. Rashi brings. The word pasim is actually not such a common word in this context. So that's why the midrash says pasyam. What does that mean, pasyam? That in the merit of Yosef, they split the sea. As it says, vayam ra'a vayanos, the midrash says the sea saw and escaped. Mara, what did it see that he escaped? Aronosh Yosef, he saw the tomb or the coffin of Yosef. So because Yosef later on in the Parshat ran and escaped and fled the scene with Potiphar's wife, Nas Hayam Mipanav, the sea also fled in front of him. This is learned from Gzera Shava of the word Vayanos. So now we're going to explain the Midrash. Amru lachu chazu. Loma, hine Midrash hazu lamadnu tirutz o kisha achad. V'hu lama yisnu oto v'inyan. Ki asher beyado avanot, if somebody is sinful, lo yipaleh ba'chet al yado. Ki avira goret areva. The nature of sin is that sin brings further sin. The rich get richer and the sinful get more sinful. Asher hu naki, one who is clean from sin, halo kamo zar nechshav. It seems very strange that he should fall into sin. As we see in the rabbis' writings, that even the animal of a tzaddik doesn't sin. Right? Afilu behem tan shel tzaddikim don't sin. Tzaddikim atzmon lakolchken, as the story we know of Pinchas ben Yair and Rechanina ben Dosa, right? That they didn't want to move and do any sins. So what's going on here? And as the rabbis say in the pasuk Tzofar Rasha Tzaddik, that Hashem helps the tzaddikim not fall into sin, especially when he learns Torah. The Torah protects him from sin. So the question is, how did Hashem let the Shvatim fall into the sin of hating Yosef? Why didn't Hashem protect them? Why did Hashem allow them to have free choice to fall into the sin of this hatred? It says Rav Moshe Alshich. Hashem was desperate for Yosef to be sold into Egypt. Why? But often in order that he should be find himself in a situation where he has to flee. He had to flee away from the temptation to sin, and that will bring the zchut and the merit in order to bring the splitting of the sea. The shiur hakatuv v'asala katonet shenimshcha meni kriyat yamsuf ubazeh kasher tosnuato. The reason that Hashem made that the brothers should have bechira, and He didn't protect them from sin as Hashem does. Hashem protects tzaddikim from sin. Why in this case did Hashem not protect the Shvatim from falling into the sin of hate? It's because Hashem wanted Yosef to be sold. Because Hashem wanted Yosef to be sold so he can fall into the nisayon of Potiphar's wife, and then that will cause Yosef to be able to have the merit to split the sea. There's an interesting thing actually where I saw in the Ramchal on this subject of Yosef going into his Potiphar. A little bit off topic. I'm gonna finish with this. He says that Yosef, according to one explanation of the Gemara, it says that he came that morning to do his work, and the one opinion of the Gemara means that he basically relented. He was going to sin with the master's wife. And only then he saw the face of his father in front of him, and then he didn't do it. So the Ramchal explains that the wife of Potiphar was the mother of Yosef's actual wife in the end, Osnat. So he actually saw that there was some kind of tikkun that needed to be done here, and specifically there is the concept of the Shechina being in Galut, and he felt, in his mind at the time, was that he'll be able to rectify the Shechina by being with her and taking out the sparks from her and then fixing whatever needs to be fixed. But when he saw Yaakov showed him that that's not the way to do it. When it comes to sexual immorality, there's no way you can go in there and come out stronger with more than what you came out. So it's always going to be the other way around. And that's what he took from Yaakov. And the Ramchal says a very, very powerful, scary thing from this. He says that now that happened, meaning now that Yosef had this thought of using sexual immorality or something that is not purely holy in order to fix things, to go into a place of sin, to come out seemingly in a better place, now the Yetzer Hara has now this tool, meaning Yosef gave Yetzer Hara this tool to be able to fool people to start doing things that are questionable with the reasoning that this is going to somehow fix something. And now this is something that one of the tools the Yetzer Hara has to always give like a certain justification to things that are inherently wrong, in order to it's for the good, for the greater good, etc. And that is obviously something that's one of the scariest things when you start making all these calculations, because sometimes it can just take us very far away. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should have a great Shabbat and merit to learn the Torah about the Shvatim and connect to all the tzaddikim. Thank you Hashem. We'll see you next week.